Her existence begins with a blur of gray, giving way to suffocating darkness. Suddenly, the presence of her limbs is overwhelmingly heavy. As if made of stone, she finds herself unable to move, crushed by the mere weight of the blackness. She screams behind closed lips, straining against it, but there's no give to this crushing void. It's melded into her body, fused into her skin, as if she is cocooned and cemented within it. The void lasts an eternity, though only a space of a second has passed, only enough time for her to become fully aware of it. The next second will surely be worse. This is hell, she thinks. Then, in a flutter of eyelashes and a gasp, she breaks through. Oxygen floods her lungs, but she chokes on it as if it were water. With her second breath, she feels like she's drowning. The air that courses through her is painful, like she's gone without it for so long her body thinks it's a foreign virus. She feels her blood boiling and something in her chest beating like it's trying to get out. Then the blackness around her, above her, begins to move and the weight is gone. She's staring up at clouds, she realizes, black and roiling. They have a life of their own, breathing, moving with a pulse. Coughing and sputtering to life, she pitches forward, and the black skies give way to ground, which momentarily blinds her with its brightness. She reels back, the sudden flood of her senses heightening her awareness to every sensation. Breath and blood, thought, and her nerves firing electricity through her. Still in the onslaught of motion and sense, she lays as still as possible, eyes closed. After a few deep breaths, the ground settles beneath her, and the first sensations absent of pain trace through her fingertips, arms, and finally to her eyes. She opens them again. This time the light around her doesn't blind her, but she still has to squint to get used to its brightness. The world around her is a strange juxtaposition, the sky nearly void of light, and the ground, as far as her eyes can see, glowing. The scene reminds her of oil, the crude blackness and dance of color separated into sky and earth, the inky darkness and the dark rapid moving clouds overhead, and the iridescence of glowing turquoise, violets, and greens for miles of rolling hills. The sky is angry, tumultuous, forever unrested as if she were in the midst of a storm. But there is no thunder, no lightning or rain. The wind is brisk, however. It rustles the mass of iridescent growth around her, sending little glowing spores dancing away in the wind. Then she realizes the spores seem to take on a collective consciousness of their own, forming a path across the empty field. A hollowness in her chest aches to follow, to be dragged along with the breeze, though she still felt the phantom weight of that darkness. Scanning the trail of lights, she sees its end at a copse of trees a short distance away. Slowly, she stands up, sways for a moment as the vertigo subsides and she regains balance. Licking her lips, she tastes blood and metal, so she tries to focus on the distant trees. Her chest pulses in time with a gust of wind that pushes at her back impatiently. She stumbles forward a step and nearly tumbles, but manages to catch herself. Then, step by step, she makes her way to the trees, the ache in her chest subsiding with each step closer she takes. As she nears the woods, she notices there's a downhill dip that leads into darkness. Stepping into the dense trees, the wind suddenly ceases, along with its whistle, as if it can't penetrate the space between the trees, or like the wind has done its job by bringing her here and has retreated back to its origin. The silence unsettles her into stillness for a moment, but the space in her chest expands painfully, pulling her forward once again. Once she's woven herself around the glowing tree roots, her eyes have adjusted enough to the light to notice the gaping chasm in front of her. Then, as she gets closer, she's able to see it doesn't drop into nothingness. it's a steep but manageable descent into a cave. Navigating carefully on the stones, about halfway down, she looks up and feels the air rush from her lungs again. Ahead of her, a beacon in all the darkness, is a crack in the floor of the cave, severing it into two, wall to wall, a sliver of glowing water. The water itself is alive with light, but the surface is smooth and completely still, as if made of glass, allowing her to see all the way to the bottom. Stumbling, she nearly falls, but she can't take her eyes away from the water. This is where she is supposed to be, where the tug in her chest is pulling her to. Nestled at the bottom of the pond is a garden of gemstone and crystal quartz, emanating a light of its own, but also throwing spectrums from glowing lichen clinging to the bottom. Specks of the lichen float beneath the surface, like dust suspended in the sunlight. The effects transforms the cave from dark to a swirling gleam of varying shades of blue, violet, and pinks cast across the ceiling. Beautiful. The voice, the first she's heard, doesn't startle her as much as she thinks it should have. In fact, she feels a warmth spread through her chest at the sound of it, and her mind eases momentarily. The voice belongs to a man standing on the opposite shore, about 10 yards across. You're beautiful, she thinks, and it's the only thing she can think looking at him. The light cast upon him by the illuminating waters shrouds him in blue, but she can also tell by the contrast his hair is dark. A smile tugs at the corner of his mouth. His eyes are heavy-lidded, but wide with disbelief, but also like he's seeing an old friend. Strangely, she realizes she knows, somehow, his eyes are blue, nearly the same color of the light bathing him. There's an instinctual draw to this man she has no recollection of, but whose voice sounds like an embrace she's known 1,000 times before. The sensation feels alien, contradictory, almost impossible. But the longer she looks into his eyes, the more she feels it isn't the first time, that they have known lifetimes together. And by the look in his eyes, she's not sure when he said beautiful he was talking about the pond. Her lips pull into an easy smile, one she can't help in the face of something that feels safe in this unknown landscape. But the smile is gone the next second, the strangeness of it all crashing in at once. The man is a stranger, but she can't ignore the strange pull she feels towards him, almost as if he hears her thoughts. He says the words hovering on the tip of her tongue. You feel familiar. His words carry a hint of a question, wondering if she feels it too. Yes. Her voice comes out raspy, as if still half in slumber. She swallows. You too. But I don't know you. His smile fades just a little, and she can see the struggle on his face as his eyes take her in, the same struggle she's battling internally. The jarring feeling of familiarity fighting the sense of the unknown, the feeling that she's known those eyes, that face, his words, but having no memory to attach to those feelings. I don't know you either. Damn it. A short, frustrating laugh escapes him, and he shakes his head, pausing before he speaks again. I was hoping you had some answers. She stares at him blankly, unsure what he means. A sinking feeling creeps up in her chest as she realizes she hoped he might have the answers too. What's your name? He says after another beat of silence. My name? She echoes. Yes. Who are you? Those are two different questions, she says without thinking. This time his laugh is full of affection. Yes, they are. But you still haven't answered my question, because you can't. I'm willing to bet you don't know your name. Stunned, She digs inside herself for something. A name is the easiest thing to remember. She feels her own presence in existence. She must have a name. It should always be on the tip of her tongue, always in the midst of her mind. But even after a moment's contemplation, there's nothing. She considers for a moment saying any name she can think of just to prove him wrong, but a twinge of panic plants itself inside her stomach, and she feels too nauseous to speak. "Don't worry. I don't know my name either." He takes a step closer to the pond, gazing down into the water, his expression darkening with thought. "I've been staring into the water for... God, how does time work? Feels like I've been here trying to figure it out. Like there was nothing before that. Like I just woke up into existence." So he doesn't know this place either, she thinks. The nausea and dizziness magnify, the seed of panic in her stomach growing. How can we not remember our names? "I'm somebody. I have to be," she says, the words slipping out before she can stop them. His head snaps up. "Do you have any memories?" She shakes her head, looking away. She can't stand to see the desperate hope in his eyes disintegrate, knowing it's not the answer he wanted. At the base level, they are still two strangers trapped in a strange world for seemingly no reason. She thinks hard, concentrating on remembering. But apart from the gray blip in the enclosing darkness, there is nothing before waking a short time ago. Woke up into existence, trapped. The words feel like a hand around her neck, and she can feel the panic flood from her stomach into her throat, constricting her breath into short gasps, never fully filling her lungs. "Hey, it's okay." From across the pond, the man takes another step closer to the shore, hands out as if he can reach across the void to comfort her, or as if she's a dangerous creature. She doesn't feel dangerous. She feels like she'll crack at any moment, like the simple act of breathing will be the end of her. Her legs give out and she crumples to her knees. "Don't fight the panic. Breathe and look at me. Nothing else exists," he says, eyes full of concern. His words are steady though, not coddling. He's done this before. "Breathe in. Breathe out." She follows his orchestration of inhales and exhales, keeping her eyes trained on his. With each deep breath, the worry subsides just a little, retreating back into her body to await the next wave of anxiety. The cool stone against her sweating hands feels soothing, helps calm her further. "Better?" She nods, relieved. "Thank you." They sit in the silence of the aftermath of her panic attack, but it's comfortable, as it can be for two people without a memory. When he does speak again, his gaze is distant. "Logically, if we don't remember one another, and we don't know each other's names, much less our own, that makes us strangers." Sitting up and wiping the sweat from her forehead, she says, "I suppose that does make us strangers." His jaw shifts to the side, brow furrowed in confusion. "But hello doesn't feel right either. Not with you." "No," she says, staring down into the pond. "No, it doesn't." "So then, what does this feel like to you?" Something about gazing into the unmoving water, something so still in the midst of her inner turmoil of anxiety-ridden thoughts, gives her clarity. "It feels like goodbye." His eyes flicker with recognition, and their eyes meet. That's exactly what it feels like, she imagines him thinking. Her eyes wander back down to the water in silence. The air tastes like metal and blood, that taste she first had upon waking. It feels like severed souls in a great divide, but at the same time like closeness, and a relief at seeing this stranger that feels like a part of her. Something about the pond tells her to keep her distance, while simultaneously calling her to jump right in, as if the answers to all her questions lie just beneath the glass surface, but also like if she disturbs the unbroken surface of the water, all this goes away. The water, the cave, the strange skies and glowing ground, and the man across the pond, it will all vanish if she touches the water, tries to cross to get to him. She knows it so deeply it vibrates in her bones. If this ends, then she goes back to that gray blur, goes back to the crushing darkness. The thought makes her shudder. The last place she wants to go is back to the dark. What are you doing? The man's eyes are wide with fear as she realizes her hand is outstretched over the surface of the water, mere inches from the glance across its surface. The trance of her thoughts and the pole of the water breaks, and she pulls her hand back quickly, as if she's been burned. Sorry, she breathes. It's okay. His shoulders relax again. He gestures to the water. At least you feel it too. In that moment, she feels a crack in her locked memory, triggered by that simple gesture. A name makes its way into her mind and falls out of her mouth. Isaac. His eyes widen upon hearing the name, a spark of recognition behind his eyes. The words come easier now. She feels more sure about this than anything. Your name is Isaac, she says again, nearly laughing with relief that she's broken some memory out, that the intimacy she feels towards him can't be imagined. Isaac's face breaks into a grin as the name washes over him, settling on him like an old coat, familiar and warm. Okay, Isaac, he says, testing it out. That's a start. Now we just have to figure out. Hot fire, as if she were being ripped apart fiber by fiber, suddenly ignites in her chest and spreads outward through every nerve. Her paralysis returns, and she collapses to the ground. Across the water, she sees Isaac frantically take a step towards her and straight into the water. Her pain magnifies instantly, as the world very literally turns itself inside out. The cave ceiling becomes the floor. The air turns to water. She gasps, inhaling frigid water that burns all the way into her lungs. Frantic, her chest radiating in pain and drowning all at once, adrenaline is the only thing that pushes her upwards, where she can just make out the outline of the pond in its crystalline garden. The world is upside down. The oxygen is up there, and I am drowning. Out of the corner of her eye, she catches frantic movements and turns her head. Isaac swims towards her, a pained expression on his face. He's inhaled the water too, she realizes. We're going to die. The thought is calm, like she resigned herself to her nameless end, accepting it. At least she's not alone, not trapped in the black eternal tar she's awoken from. She reaches out to Isaac, and the moment their hands touch, the edges of her vision fray with black and blue lights, and she feels her body being pulled deeper into the water, out of existence. Desperately she tries to grab at his fingers, but they easily slip out of her grasp. A muffled scream reaches her ears, Isaac yelling something at her underwater as the torrent carries her away. She can just make out the movement of his lips, and she realizes he's shouting a name. As blackness takes over, another shred of memory locks into place. Elena. Elena is her name. Isaac remembered. Then the pain, the water, and Isaac are gone. And to Elena, There was only darkness.